Good morning. As the title suggests, when is a sheepskin not a sheepskin? When it's felted. So a couple of you had asked me how I went ahead and made my sheepskin that I have, and I had some video that I went ahead and shot. It's a little bit dark. I hope it's okay for you. I live off grid, as some of you probably know, and so the room, my house is also very small, and the room that my machine is in is very small, has a very small window, a very small light fixture. So it's fine for me for working. I think the video is okay, so we're gonna hope that it's you can see enough in it, I think, to get the gist of what's going on. So as I mentioned, I have a very large felting machine, which is kind of uncomfortable in a house this small. But I have a very large felting machine, and it's full of felting needles in a long row in a big bed. And you can put your fibers through, and they come down and they felt up the wool. And using this method, I found a way to take tufts of roving, lay them in a line, and felt just the ends into the base material, and then do another row, and so on and so forth. And by doing that, and leaving them very tufty, kind of spacing them a little bit, it gives it a feeling of having locks on there. Locks would have probably worked a lot better, but locks are expensive, and this was wool that I had on hand. So I wanted to use what I had on hand. If I had bought a lot of material to make this, it would have ended up costing me as much as if I'd have just bought a sheepskin, which a sheepskin would be much more durable. This faux sheepskin is not going to be as durable. It's going to be, it's more likely to try to felt a little bit. It will pill a little bit, and it's not going to be exactly the same. Oh, and it doesn't have the leather underneath, so it doesn't have that sturdiness of being able to put it on various surfaces, or being able to, resist water and that sort of thing. So it'll be fun. It'll be cute. It'll look good in my roundhouse. That's kind of my plan. And it didn't cost me much because it was all materials I had on hand. So for me, it was an inexpensive, easy, goofing off sort of thing to do. So I'll give you a look real quick on what it looks like, and then we'll get to the video, okay? So as you can see, I used some fiber that was a little more kind of a gray brown. The natural fiber is the backing material. You can kind of see the contrast there, that honey natural color. So I used kind of a gray brown, and I really liked the darker brown with it. And then I have a little dark gray piece in here and whatnot. But as you can see, by keeping it in these little tufts, it makes it look more natural. But I did a sample piece where I ended up brushing it all out, and I didn't like it. It just looked flat and boring, and it actually probably would have felted more that way than having it in the lock. So if this tries to felt, it'll be more inclined to try to felt to itself and felt these little locks than it is to felt to each other as much. And but it gives it kind of a fun look. I'll back up a little bit, and you can see it kind of in its full. And I kind of kept the edges kind of a natural shape, kind of jaggedy and so forth, so we kind of have that feel. So let's go ahead and get to the video.
So here you see me taking tufts from the roving, and because roving has fibers that are they're all laying lengthwise, but they're overlapping each other, and I want some that have all the ends kind of together. So what I'm doing when I'm taking it multiple times is I'm just grabbing a hold of an end. I'm just pulling those out from the group, and then another end and another end until I have a mass that's the right size. And then I'll usually take from the bottom of that any loose fibers. I clamp the top, take some loose fibers from the bottom, put them back into the pile. And that's what I'm doing there. And then kind of rolling them together to make the tuft. So I'm just separating some fibers from the roving, but I only want to take a small amount and then get those loose fibers out and back on top. So I have, otherwise what will happen is the top of the tuft will get felted in, but then there'll be so many loose fibers that I end up with just tons coming out, and then the tuft is much smaller than it was anticipated. So I try to get them as aligned as possible and get as many of the loose fibers out beforehand so that I have an accurate feel for what this tuft is going to look like and have less waste afterwards. And you can see in the background where I have used a pencil and just made some straight lines there to kind of guide myself with, because the machine does felt in a straight line. I do kind of have to have them lined up pretty well so that I can get the ends secured without, so here they are all lined up. And then, like I said, it'll come along and it'll felt just the top ends along that line and keep the lower ends sticking out. Felt it flat that far in. And you do see that there's a band across. I didn't do that in most. Sometimes laying fibers across each other before felting helps them stay. I didn't see that it made too much difference, so I didn't continue to do that on all the rows, just some rows. Excuse the sniffle there, sorry about that. So I'm on the back side and I need to pull the thing through. Unfortunately, my table's short and I got stuck here on the end, and yes, you can hear me humming in the background. Feed it in, get it lined up. I have to get pretty close in there. And normally there are rollers that will feed it through if you're starting at one end and felting a whole length. But I needed to just get it up to the part where I needed, get it lined up, and then you will actually see me here in a minute freeform rather than having it feed in and continue to felt along the length. I just need to kind of go back and forth so it'll felt well along the line that I'm trying to have anchored down. And the tufts are really fluffy, so they stick up higher than the feed-in area and get curled back on themselves if I don't stick them under there real good like that. I'm super cautious about where my fingers are because imagine sewing through your finger except like 100 needles. Sideways again so that I can, so the needles come down in different spots and really adhere well in that small confined area. And here I've just gone around to check to make sure that the fabric on the back side is not the wrinkles that get felted into it. It will adhere into the base fiber, but it also continues to felt that and make it firmer underneath as well, so that it has a tight piece of fabric. wrong spot. The needles have to be all the way up, of course, or I can't get the fabric out. And that row is done, so we move on. So then I come back again, and I don't want to yank them out of the backing, of course, so I put my hand there, and again, pull out those loose fibers. Otherwise, I'm going to have a lot of shedding and a lot more pilling. So I just kind of take each tuft and just kind of jiggle out the loose fibers and set them aside. On an earlier project, on a test project, I actually tried brushing them out, and that actually made a bigger mess. It made them all too straight, too flat, kind of messed up the tufting of it. And I hadn't really developed the tufting part very well yet either, but it just looked like one mass of hair, and it didn't look nice when it was done. Um, this way I think was working better, and it also, the fibers that I'm taking out I can actually reuse because I'm keeping them straight as opposed to like brushing them out into like a ball or a tuft. Excuse my husband's noises in the background. He was doing school that day in the other room. But yeah, this job is mostly time consuming. It's not particularly hard, but it's laying all the tufts out, running the machine, and then going through and getting these loose fibers out, and then laying the next row out and just kind of continuing on that way.
So there you go. I hope you liked it. I hope you were able to learn something from it. I hope I explained everything okay, and you could get a good sense of kind of what the process was like. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave a comment, and I will definitely get back to you on it. I love sharing stuff like this. I love teaching, and I love fibers, and I love crafts, and I love art. So at any time, if you ever have a question or have, I want advice or how to or any of that stuff, just let me know. Drop me a line in the comments and I'll see what I can do. Until next time, have a great day.